Good evening, everyone. My name is Callie Coffin-Friels, and I am a tutor here at Appleruth, and I am excited this evening to get to welcome a really awesome expert to talk to us about essay do's and don'ts for the college application essay. We are in for a treat tonight to hear from Kim Lifton, who's been doing this work for nearly 2 decades, and she's going to be a wealth of wisdom for us this evening. Before we get to the good stuff, though, I just do want to remind you of who we are here at Appleroot and what we get really excited about. So, our why, to reference that TED Talk that went viral however many years ago, um, is what we believe very deeply is that when you change a student's self belief, you change their lives. So, basically, this idea that how a student perceives themselves is an incredibly important part of how not only they engage in the world, but how they engage academically. If they don't believe they're capable of something, why are they going to try? So, our main goal at Appleruth is to help students realize that they are capable and provide them with the tools to give them those mastery experiences. And so, we do that in a couple of different categories or buckets, if you would. So, we do academic support, K through 12 and into college, on a wide variety of subjects. That also includes AP testing and whatnot, which I know we just finished AP season, but it's never too early to start thinking about APs. We also do that with test prep, so ACT, SAT, college admissions type stuff, as long as specialized testing for different specialized high schools. So if you're in New York, the SHSAT, the ISSE, so many different acronyms in there. But if you're looking at getting into a specialized high school or a private school in general, we provide support for that. And then also executive function coaching, which is what our founder, Dr. Jed Appleruth, refers to as the invisible syllabus of school, right? So all the stuff that comes intuitively to some students, but not intuitively to others. So how do you prioritize your assignments when you have a whole bunch of them, like a dozen different assignments going on in 1 week? How do you put together an organizational system that works for you so all your stuff isn't just shoved into your backpack and you hope you have the right paper that's due that day? And all kinds of other things just to help students feel like they have a sense of control in how their academics is going. So that's just a little reminder of who we are at Appleroot. This is not the gist of what we're doing this evening. But we get to spend this hour with the lovely Kim Lifton. And I want to tell you a little bit about her before I pass the baton over. At Appleruth, we've been doing this work for a really long time. And over the course of doing our work together, we get to meet a lot of really cool, like-minded people who are also very passionate about helping students find their niche and be successful in various fields. So Kim Lifton is president of WOW Writing Workshop, whose unique approach to the college application essay has been transforming the college essay experience from daunting and frightening to calm and empowering for nearly 2 decades. Again, 2 decades, y'all. Lots of experience there. WOW provides students and educational professionals a simple, step-by-step process for writing effective college essays so students can stand out and tell their stories. Perceptive, resourceful, and curious, Kim can get a story out of anyone. She helped create the brainstorming process used in the WOW method. Kim's articles on the college essay process have been featured in numerous newspapers, magazines, and online publications over the years. And Kim is a former newspaper reporter herself and corporate communications manager with a BA in journalism from Michigan State University. So we have a lot of wisdom to glean from Kim this evening. So I will officially pass the baton over to you, Kim, so you can teach us everything that our students are curious to hear.
Thank you, Callie. And it's always a good reminder for me to see how aligned our philosophies are, Appleroot and WOW, because what you said mirrors what we say, which is the secret to standing out, standing up, however you want to say it on a college essay, is really to believe in yourself, to trust yourself, to know that something that you have to say and share is meaningful about you is what someone else wants, what you want them to know, not what anyone else does. And so I just thought that was great. And thank you so much for that amazing open. And I feel like my job is done and we can go home now.
Well, we're just getting started.
Oh, yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, so tonight our objectives are, we want to provide you accurate information about the college essay. There's so much out there on the internet, um, in your schools, at the parents' meetings, everywhere, that is so, I'm not going to say inaccurate, I'm going to say often it's so out of context that you don't know what to do with it. And it feels like it sounds good, but it's not really so like we always pride ourselves in providing accurate information to you. We get our information directly from admissions people. We don't make things up. And so we'll do that tonight. I'm going to dispel some of the myths, the don'ts, we call that. And that's one of my favorite things to do. And I'm going to share the facts, what we call the do's. I'm also going to give you a little taste of our signature process, our 10-step process, and we'll leave some time to answer your questions. Okay, next slide, please. So what's a college essay anyway? I want you to all raise your hands and answer the question. But a college essay, in its simplest form, it's a story that showcases something that's meaningful to you, answers the prompt, and is insightful. And it should be focused. It should be genuine, written in your words, your voices, your story, your words, your voice, which of course brings me back to the Upper Roof message about, own it. I think I like to summarize things. Or like trust yourself because your story, your words, your voice, it's really powerful. And a college essay, like it or not, is something that most of you, probably all of you, are going to have to at least write one. And it can be so daunting because of all the things you hear that you don't know if they're true or not. And what we do at WOW is we try to make it a little easier for you because it doesn't have to be so daunting. So just remember, it's a story that's written about you, by you, focusing on the traits and the characteristics that make you who you are. That is it. To share something meaningful with colleges that you want them to know, something they won't otherwise know from reading your application, and answer the prompts. Okay, next. So here's a few of the myths. I do love these, Kevin, I really do. So number one, and there's a lot more than these, but we don't have time in one session. So admissions officers don't like to read applicants' college essays. Well, I can tell you this much. They wouldn't ask if they didn't read them. In fact, I speak to dozens of them. I talk to them all the time. And one of the most favorite pieces of the application for a lot of them is actually the essay. Because you're looking at a stack of paper, whether they're reading it on a computer or they're reading it, they print them out and they read them, it can get kind of boring, saying all the same test scores, all the same grades, all the same activities. And when they read the essays, it's that time when they really get to know the applicants a little better. It's a big piece of the holistic process. They read it, they get a feel for it. They're not grading it, they're not putting an A on it or a B on it. They're reading it to get a feel for who you are and what it is that you want them to know. And that's it. But they read them start to finish. So if you move on to the next slide, we have Erica Sanders, who's at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. She says this all the time. We read each writing opportunity. We want to put it in context with what we see academically. We want it to be specific, different, something we can't find elsewhere in the application. Okay, next. Myth number 2. Colleges look for 5 specific traits in college essays. I've Googled this. I've seen it. I've read stories about these traits from people who actually are experts and know things. And yet, this is not true. They are not looking for a specific trait from you. They may be looking for specific traits in their applicants. They're not reading that essay looking for something specific. Okay, next. So Sean Felton, who just left Cornell, is now an independent educational consultant. He was the top admissions person at Cornell. And I love this quote, so I wanted to share it with you. He says, I don't have something specific in mind when I review essays. I don't know what I want to read, but I do want you to reflect to the best of your ability in your answer to any prompt so I can get to know you a little better as I review your application. And the piece that I'd like you to take away from this is reflect to the best of your ability. You don't have to go so deep if you're not able to. You don't have to, if you want to, you can. If it's hard for you, you can't, but you do have to reflect. And the key is to the best of your ability. That's what they want. Anything beyond your ability doesn't, it sounds fake. It sounds like someone else might have done it. So just stay true to yourself, trust that voice. Okay, now let's do the next myth. The essay must be perfect. Perfection is just, it shouldn't be a goal for anybody, should it? Your college essay should sound like you, not Hemingway, not Toni Morrison, not Kelly, not me, not your mother, not your father, and not the writer down the street. And it certainly shouldn't sound like AI. It needs to be written again in the voice that you have, your authentic voice, genuine. I love perfectly imperfect essays, I call them. I love the awkwardness of a 17-year-old sentence. That's what you sound like at your age. So perfection, like if you forget to put a capital, not a capital, if you forget to put a comma somewhere in your essay and later you're freaking out about it, trust me, that's not going to make or break your application. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for genuine. So now let's Christoph Gutentag, he's like legendary in the world of admissions. He's at Duke. He's the top guy there. He's been there forever. He's still there. He'll probably be there forever. And what he says year after year, you are a high school senior and you should sound like one. Not your mom, not your dad, not your English teacher, and certainly not one of the most revered writers of all time. I wish I saw more of a thoughtful voice of a 17-year-old. He says the same thing all the time. It's true. He's your audience. Let's do another myth. It's getting fun. Impressive topics stand out. No, they don't. They really don't. You stand out because you are impressive. What you have to say is what matters, as long as it's about you. So the topic, it's important, but that reflection on the topic is critical. And students tend to start with topics. You're already halfway into the essay if that's where you are. That's not going to impress anyone, but you will. So what you did, forget about it. How you think, what goes on up here in your head. They want to know how you think. This is a thinking task, maybe even more than it is a writing task. You do need to write to go to college, but you write the way you write. Nothing more, nothing less. All right, next slide, please. So Calvin Wise, who's at Hopkins, he says the essay does not have to be about something huge or some life-changing event. Students think they need a monumental experience, but the essay can be about something small. And I'm going to add mundane moments, little tiny focused moments can showcase so much about you. I want you to remember that. One more myth. And there are 4 structures for the college essay. Choose one. You shouldn't be writing to a structure for your college essay. The 5-paragraph essay, not the place for it. When you write to it for a structure, you're going to be, borrowing, begging, stealing lines, throwing them together. You're going to lose that genuine voice. Start at the beginning follow process, you do pre-work. Your essay will emerge through a process from writing it and revising it. You should not start with a structure. You should start with your traits, your characteristics. Ask yourself this, what is it that I want colleges to know about me beyond everything they read in the application? That's what you start with. And I'll get more into that when I go through the process. So our secret at WOW is pretty simple. Process, plan, schedule. Very simple process, 10 steps. We break it apart into bite-sized chunks of instructions, information, nothing takes too long. We give you a plan that you can do and a schedule that you can follow so that you know when you start and you know when you finish. That's what you need. Move on. So does the essay really matter? Do essays really matter? I get this question a lot. The short answer is yes, they do. And the long answer is you could have a conversation with the person sitting next to you, with anybody you know, about how much they matter, how much they don't matter. But from where you're sitting, you're not here unless you're applying to college. And all you need to know is that you have to do it. And if you spend all your time thinking about how important it is, you're going to miss out on that opportunity to just do what they ask. You have to do it. So yes, they're important. The most important thing are your grades and that rigor of your curriculum. Colleges want A's and hard classes. Is that right, Kelly? And you can chime in
Yes,
if you want on
can
this.
confirm. So can
And
confirm,
then
yes, the grades do matter.
a lot. And test scores, probably your older siblings got a little break from that, but sorry, kids, you're here to stay. You have to take them. So take them, do what you have to get whatever score you need. And then 3 in importance can be essays, it can be recommendations, but you can see it's very important. And with the Supreme Court decision, affirmative action, taking it away, dismantling it, people wonder, are essays more important? Are they less important? I don't know. It's kind of too soon to tell. But it seems like, to me, and Callie can probably chime in on this, they are just as important as they were before. And for you, whether they are more or less, it doesn't matter because you just have to do it. So write them, write each one using, as a look at each one as the same opportunity. Every essay you're asked to write is an opportunity to share something meaningful about you that they wouldn't know. So if you look at it as an opportunity and not just some task you have to do and you're dreading, it's going to be a lot easier for you. But they do matter, and they might be more important now. We just don't know yet. So,
And I would just add to that, Kim, that this is the only part of the application where the student wants statistic. Like grade is quantitative information, all about that number. Same with the test scores. This is the only opportunity where they get to tell a story, and I think that matters. So just to kind of echo you there.
That is true, and thank you for saying that because I usually do. So thank you. Yay, Kelly. Okay, next slide. So this is a sample of one of our schedules. We have these amazing schedules that we break down to month. We factor in time for students to miss deadlines. Your kids, we know. But if you look at it, you can see that nothing on this whole schedule is more than 2 hours of your time, and most of it is an hour or less. When you write papers for school, you spend a lot more time on it than this. So we break it down so that you can do it, so that you can schedule it. And no matter what you're doing in the summer, you can find the time to get this done. So yeah, our schedules are great, legendary. All right, let's move on. So this is a little sample graphic depiction of our 10 steps, which with the WELL method will help you write your personal statement in 10 simple steps. We start with understand the prompt. Everything starts with you shouldn't even be considering writing anything until we're choosing a topic, until you understand what that prompt is asking and how the essay fits into the application. You have to reflect on what the readers already know about you. Think about what they can't know, what they can't find out from the rest of your application. So that's critical. When we say understand the prompt, let's take the Common App, for example. There's 7 prompts. We're talking about the big picture. Colleges are asking you to write a personal statement. What are they asking you and why? What do they know about you? And what do you want them to know about you and why? And think about traits and characteristics, not experiences. They don't care if you made it to the Olympic team. Not that they don't care. They want to know what that means to you, how it affected your life. Did it change you? Did you learn something new about yourself? It doesn't have to be as huge as that. It can be small, but that's what the prompt is asking. And then after you do that, you can look at all the prompts and you just pick the one that speaks to you. And then we ask you to come up with some ideas. And step 2 is brainstorm ideas. And that's when you're doing a lot of pre-work. We have an online platform and the coach guides you through the platform and you do your work inside of it, a lot of work on your own. And you have one meeting for the Common App with your coach, which is all you need. You don't need a bunch of meetings. Writing is not a group activity, and the coaches are available and work back and forth. But anyway, step 2, brainstorm ideas. And we encourage students to consider several different topics. And for each one, we discuss the story idea, the prompt, and what the readers will learn about you. What might be, you might be surprised by what you choose to write about. So we say, come start this process with a blank slate. And you may be surprised. And then every essay, theme, step 3, focus on theme. Every essay needs a theme to help the writer, to help you stay focused. A theme has 2 parts that answers these 2 questions. What happened? What story are you sharing? And 2, why does it matter? What are the readers going to learn about you that they can't find out from the rest of the application? And then step 4 is a free write. Every step builds upon the previous step. In fact, we have an introduction, a free write, which is the exact same free write as step 4. Only step 4 is focus on your essay, and the free write is just a free write to get started, to warm up, to see what your authentic voice sounds like when you're not trying so hard to impress someone. That's the voice we want to see. That's the voice of missions people want to see. And then you don't write your first draft till step 5. It's a content draft. Just write it. Write it over the word limit. Don't overthink it. Just get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect. Plenty of time to revise and structure and polish later. Step 6, we read the first draft with prompted theme in mind and give students 2 writing exercises to help focus the essay, add details where needed. And this review is for content only. We don't comment yet on structure or polish. In step 7, we ask our students to go back and review their own work before they write their second draft. And that's really helpful. So by this time, as you can see, student is completely in the driver's seat. And then the reviews and the filing drafts, this of 8, 9, and 10. But the big takeaway for you, I hope, is that you, the student, need to be in charge of this, not our coach, not your high school counselor, teacher, tutor, nobody. This is your essay, and you get to make the decisions. We make suggestions, you can take them, we let you take the lead, we follow you. And students really appreciate and like that. We don't mark up your We don't mark up your essays with a bunch of red ink. We ask a lot of questions. So that is the WOW process in a nutshell. Okay, next. Now I'm going to go through some of the steps in more detail. We'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's start with understand the prompt. What's next? Next slide. So this is how you understand a prompt. You ask yourself, what is the prompt asking? So I'm going to repeat this so that it can stick. How does the essay fit into my application? Ask yourself, what do readers already know about you? And what else do you want them to know? Next, please. And now I'm going to help you to parse a prompt, break apart a prompt. So Common App Prompt 1. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So I'm going to back up a minute and tell you, because you may be new, and I'll just tell you the Common App is an application that more than 1,000 schools use to allow students to apply to college in a more streamlined fashion. I believe you can apply up to 20 schools. Is that right, Kelly? Using the Common App. It's about that.
It
It
sounds
shouldn't
about
be.
right.
It shouldn't be more than that. You should not apply to more. You shouldn't even apply to 20 schools, in my opinion. But that's not up to me. So it's a lot of work. So back to the prompt. What are the key words here that you need to focus on when you're trying to figure out what this prompt means? First word is meaningful. So whatever your background, identity, interest, or talent is, it needs to be meaningful and about you. So they want a meaningful story about you. Answers the prompt is insightful and genuine. Okay, next, please. So step 2, before someone meets with one of our coaches, we ask them to do some work on their own. And step 2, you come to your meeting with several ideas. We ask you to be specific and to list details for each idea. So an example of an idea would be teaching Ellie to swim. This is a real story. So we had a student who was a camp counselor, swim instructor down at the pool. And she had to teach Ellie how to swim. Only Ellie didn't want to put her face in the water every single day. Same thing. Wouldn't do it, wouldn't do it, wouldn't do it. And ready to give up. On the last day, Ellie puts her face in the water. And our student, she was so happy. It was the first time in her life she felt like she could actually teach something to someone else. And her story, why does this matter? Shows patience, patience, patience. So what happened is she taught Ellie how to swim. And why does it matter? I am patient. Very specific. Very specific from I taught her how to swim would be on the last day of camp, Ellie put her face in the water. Why does it matter? I'm working with Ellie all summer. I am patient. It's a beautiful story. You could see how much she learned about herself, how good she felt, and how patient she was. So you get to decide what you want to share. And that's what's so beautiful about it. This was her idea. Right, next slide, please. In step 3, let's do a little bit more, and I just did that with you. So a traditional personal statement is built around a theme. What happened? What will you write about in your essay? Ellie. What happened? She put her face in the water. Why does it matter? What does the story say about you? Patience. Okay. And step 4 is a free write. So once you clarify what your theme is going to be, and the coach understands that you have enough information to actually write a 650-word essay on this topic, we ask you to do a free write, focusing only on what happened in that story. And then after that, you write your first draft. So that's just a little intro into the WOW method. So now we'll move on to the college essay do's and don'ts. So there's a lot of do's. And I'm going to be honest with you, there aren't a lot of things you can do to really, really mess up. If you do it yourself, if you answer the prompt, and it sounds like you. But what we want you to do, what college admissions people want you to do, is to follow their instructions. Every college has instructions. Read them, follow them, listen, listen, listen. That's really important. The Common App has instructions for what they want in the Common App essay. Answer the prompt. My friend Sean, who used to be at Cornell, always said the number one mistake he always saw was the students didn't answer the prompt. And if all you do is answer the prompt, you're gonna stand out, because so many people don't. Write about yourself. Don't write about your grandma or your Aunt Rose who saved a bunch of orphans from a house fire. It's not about you. You don't want them to read it and want to admit the other person of their school. It's got to be focused on you. Not like, oh, I want to be like her when I grow up. How about what have you learned from her now? Like, why? How has this person influenced you now? So make sure you write about yourself and show reflection. And as I said earlier, and I saw Kelly shaking her head too, you don't have to go as deep as the information you read on Google. This is not a test of who's the deepest thinker. Just show reflection. Show them that you've thought about it, that you've actually spent some time thinking about why something is important. Also, share something new in every essay. You don't want them to, yeah, just share something new. That's clear. Write something that's genuine. Because if it's not genuine, they're going to know. They can tell. I can tell. Highlight a positive trait or traits. Negative is when I said there's not a lot you can do wrong. Writing a negative essay, writing about how much you dislike a parent, or I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it too, Kelly. That's, yeah, you don't want to do that. And write your own essay. You really have to write it yourself. Use your own voice and your own words. Do not, oh, that's next. We'll go to the don'ts. So those are, don't focus on someone else. It's not about your mom or your dad or how much you admire them or that you want to buy them a car. It's about you. This is not the time to be humble or to give someone else credit for anything. Don't focus on your accomplishments or experience. You don't want to rehash your activities list. They already know that. They're not that interested in it. And to be honest, it's kind of boring. And as I said already, don't be negative. Positive, positive, positive. We can help you take any trait that might sound a little negative and turn it positive. Don't write what you want, what you think colleges want. And that's really important. A lot of times students overthink and spend so much time wondering what colleges are looking for. They forget that this is an exercise about you and they want to know what you want to tell them, not what you think they're looking for. Don't plagiarize or use AI to write your essay. I think that's pretty clear. It's not worth it to plagiarize it. There was this time at the University of Michigan, and Erica Sanders, who's still one of the top people there, told us at an admissions conference where I was, when they had two students the same year with the exact same essay. And coincidence or not, she happened to be reading both of them. They read, they know. Both those students were denied admission and probably have no idea why. They don't have to tell you. With AI, it's not going to sound right. It's just not going to sound right. And it's inaccurate because that robot, the body, can't read your mind. It can't. This is a personal statement. It has to be personal. Don't imitate sample essays that you read or that people give you. They won't sound right. And you can't copy someone else's voice. You can't copy someone else's story. It won't sound genuine. And don't believe everything you read. This is my personal favorite because spell check makes a lot of mistakes. Any of those things make mistakes. So don't rely on spell check. Read it, have someone else read it again, read it backward, but don't rely on some sort of computer program to catch things. It can also insert mistakes you might not catch. So those are the don'ts. Okay, next, please. Now, if you want to learn more about Lab, you can stick your phone on the beautiful QR code and you'll get some information about all of our services. So you want to give them a few seconds to do that. Magazine. And also, I believe that they'll all get a recording of this, correct? So you can get it again.
Yes, sorry. I was trying to
That's
unmute and advance the slide. Yes, there will be a recording of this emailed to everybody who registered. I believe we'll post it on our YouTube channel later as well. So it will be definitely accessible to all the folks who are here tonight and anyone who registered but wasn't able to make it.
Okay, perfect. And then you can get, there's another QR code where you get a free gift. So if you, just click on this and you can get a free book, which has so much information about the college essay.
All right, well, this has been incredibly informative, Kim. I do want to open it up for a Q&A, if that's all right. Let me check the Q&A box. There haven't been any questions submitted just yet, but I do want to make it very clear to folks who are watching, please send some questions. I know that Kim would love to talk through some of those with you, so we'll give it a little bit of time for you to get those questions up there. And while you're typing out your questions, I'll go ahead and hop over to the next slide here, just to remind you all that at Apple Ruth, we would absolutely love to support you in any of your other things. We don't specialize in the college essay writing. We leave that to Kim and her team over at Wow Writing Workshop. But if you need some support in some additional areas, like just writing for school or taking your SATs or ACTs, academic support in other areas, like math and pretty much every science under the sun, we got you taken care of. So you can definitely just give us a call to talk with one of our program directors, and they'd love to get you scheduled. Fantastic. So it looks like now we do have some questions coming in to our Q&A. All right, wow, now that we've opened it up, it's coming in a little bit like a flood. So let's see what we've got going on here. All right, so we do have some questions from some folks who are curious about kind of how personal to get when writing their personal statement. Is this an avenue where it would be appropriate to talk about something like dealing with a challenging illness and how they've been navigating that as a teenager applying for college, or other things similar to that? And is that a topic necessarily to avoid, or a topic that would maybe warrant itself to writing a strong essay? See a couple folks asking about that.
Good question. You can write about any topic you want as long as you can answer the prompt effectively with something meaningful that shows reflection and insight. If you have to, everything's about theme. If you have an illness like diabetes and you want them to know you have diabetes, and let me back up and answer this right. So the question is, the college essay is not a place to report, it's a place to reflect. So you have to ask yourself, why am I writing about this? Is it because somebody told me that if I write something about my illness, they're gonna pay attention and they're gonna feel bad for me, and then they're gonna want me to be there because that's how it works? That is not how it works. It's not a place to process your emotions. It's not a place to process your illness or something that's happened. So I'm going to give you the example that is a really sad example, but a student who had a friend who died by suicide who wants to write about the friend who died. Now, let's put this in a theme. If the theme is what happened, my friend took his own life, and the why doesn't matter is I am really sad. It's hard not having my friend. Ask yourself, what does that tell colleges about you? It's not a college essay. It's something you should write about in your journal. It's something you should explore. It's something you should work through. But you should have already processed whatever it is you're feeling before you sit down to write the essay. So if it's something that's really challenging, you can write about it if you've already processed it and if it can answer the prompt and showcase reflection, real reflection. And only you can decide how much you want to share. You don't have to. You don't have to trauma dump. In fact, if there's something you want them to know, there's an additional information section on the Common App where you can tell them. But you have to always ask yourself, why am I sharing this? What do I want them to know? And I hope that helps you. And if you have a follow-up question, just put it in the box and I'll answer it.
Thank you so much for that reflection. I think just like the commentary on, we don't necessarily, our application essay shouldn't feel like therapy in the moment. Like there's a space for
Oh, I
that. You should
like
take
that.
advantage. Yeah, like there's a space for that. You should take advantage of those resources so you can get the support that you need. Just kind of recognizing what's the appropriate form and what's not. So we have a couple other great questions in here. One student is asking, who are the people in your life that we should ask to review your essays, with the fear being if they have a whole bunch of different people reviewing their essays, incorporating all that feedback is going to sound like the people reviewing it and not the student themselves. So I guess like
Yeah.
who are the people we should trust
I,
to review?
I mean, that's a hard one to answer, but you shouldn't have a lot of people reading your college essay because everybody's going to have an opinion. I'm going to answer that a little bit differently. Whoever you do trust to read your college essay, you should give them guidelines. What is it they are reading for? What do you want them to tell you? Don't just give your essay to someone and say, will you read my college essay? They will tell you to change it. They will tell you what they think that you should write. So that's really you have to be in charge of it. You have to make sure that that person who's reading it understands what the question is and knows what it is you're trying to illustrate. You can say, does this essay answer this prompt? This is what I want them to know. I want them to know what happened. Um, I did this. Why does it matter? I'm resourceful. You can ask them if it answers that, and that will be it. And parents are not always, I'm sorry, mom and dad, sometimes we're just too close to these students to actually be able to give an answer to that. So it's very hard to find the right person. So yeah, you could have your teacher read it if you give them instructions. So take ownership of this. So
Right.
sorry I can't just say go to this person or that, but don't go to a lot of people. It's not a that's going to make your head spin in a bad way.
Mhm.
So,
Awesome. We also have a couple of questions just on kind of the practicality of getting started. So one student asked, would you recommend starting with multiple prompts at the same time, and then sticking to one that you feel connects with your story the best, or maybe focusing on one prompt at a time? Just kind of thinking logistically there, it sounds like.
I wouldn't recommend focusing on the prompt. I'd recommend stepping back and asking yourselves that question, what is the prompt asking? And you're going to pick one. You can write down a bunch of ideas. That's what we do. It starts with answer the prompt, right? It starts with understand the prompt. and then we brainstorm for ideas. And when you brainstorm for ideas, you can use multiple prompts to have your ideas, and then you pick the one that speaks to you. But ultimately, it doesn't matter which prompt you pick. Colleges don't care. They just want you to pick one that you like. They're not reading them thinking one is better than another.
All right, good. And then another kind of logistical question about timeline, I think. Should current juniors log into the Common App application and start answering essay questions now, or is that something that they should wait to do later?
Well, the questions are out, so I can't tell you when you should create your account, but you can start working on them now. Now's a really good time. We start our students right now, summer.
Mhm.
So what are you waiting for? Like, this is a really good time. Now is the time to start your college essays. Absolutely.
So I guess a follow-up to that is when would be an appropriate time to admit them, like to submit their responses once they've got them typed up.
When they're done. When they're done before the deadline, before November 1st. And it depends on the deadline for the school where you're applying. So if you have a school, for some reason, sometimes with athletics, you have to apply earlier. Sometimes for some schools, it's October 15th early. Some it's November 1st. Most schools, November 1st. You have time. And some earlier, November 15th, and other schools are going to apply in January. So you should know when the deadlines are for the schools you're interested in, and then make a schedule. Remember, schedule, schedule, schedule. Make a schedule and put all the dates on there that are important to you. Work from there.
All right. And then we have a couple of folks asking, after hearing the feedback from tonight, is this just saying I get to write whatever I want to write? So long as we're addressing the prompt. I think there's a little bit of like, really? I can write about what I want to write? Like, that's okay.
Well, you can write about what you want to write, but you have to answer the prompt.
Right.
So the first thing is, we're going to go back to understand the prompt. And then you're going to come up with ideas that will help you to answer the prompt. But yes, it should be something you want to write, and not whatever you want to write about, because it might not work, you know. But it should be something you want to write about. Like, you're not going to write about how much you love popcorn, right? Or are you?
Right. Got that one done. We had a couple more questions kind of roll in, so I'm just scrolling down to see what I haven't seen yet. I've seen a couple of students refer to prompt number 7,
Mhm.
specifically talking about share an essay on any topic of your choice. Um,
Mhm.
and really looking for just some commentary on that.
I
Not a
can
specific
answer.
question, but a couple of folks just asking, what are your thoughts on the almost like create your own prompt?
I actually had a student this year make up a couple of prompts, and I think that's great that he made up some prompts. But the prompts he made up there was no why in it. So
Mm,
you can use that. I mean, like I see one of them, like if it's something you've already written, it still has to respond. You still have to say you still have to reflect. So if it's some English paper you wrote that you really liked, it still has to answer the question. And the real question is, what is it that you want them to know about you and why? And we're talking about focusing on a trait or a characteristic that's important to you. So it's doubtful that just some paper you wrote in school is going to fit this category. Now, you can absolutely make up a prompt. Let's say you're applying to University of California. You could take one of those prompts and stick it in there for prompts for 7. You absolutely could do that. But those are prompts that are reflective, and then you'd write it longer. You could take a prompt from another school that you like and put it in there. Mostly, what I'm going to say is, I have never had a student choose prompt 7 and it didn't fit into another prompt.
mm,
So, right?
awesome. So So basically saying that the other six prompts are offer helpful direction, helpful guideposts for a student to kind of use as a sounding board. Awesome. All right, and then we did have a follow-up question from the first question earlier about like should a student share something a little bit more intimate, like overcoming a challenge, like an illness. And the question is, why are some people given credit for doing that and applauded for it, and others are advised not to? I'm not sure they quite got the distinction between like, are we using it as an opportunity to reflect on a trait that we have, like perseverance or resilience, versus just sharing this is something that happened to me.
So I don't know who's applauding somebody for overcoming a challenge, and I don't know who's advising people to write about it or to not. So if you are resilient, you can find a story that illustrates that, that doesn't have to be in illness or overcoming some big challenge. However, you can. So what I'm saying is you can write about overcoming a challenge. Those can be very good essays for the right student, for the right story, if it's genuine and if it's something that you've already processed. Writing about an illness, which is a challenge, has to be positive. So I hope that clarifies it. And it all has to be about the student. So you're not writing about the challenge. You're not writing about the illness. You're writing about something meaningful, something positive that's reflective, that went on in your life, in your head. Like, how do you respond to that? What's it, what's it mean to you? Why? That's the question. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not, admissions people aren't like, you know, I'd love to know the people who, like, I don't, like I said, I'm not familiar with people who get all this credit for it, but we're talking about articles in the New York Times, I think. I read that.
Mm-hmm.
It's people do every day. Overcoming a challenge, you know what it can be? It can be having a fight with your parents over one of you is a Republican and one is a Democrat. And on your way to school, you are arguing with somebody whose belief is so different from yours. And then you get out of the car, you're like, have a great day, love you, bye. Right? That can be overcoming a challenge. The challenge is you just really don't see eye to eye. And why does it matter? I can let things bounce off of me. I'm resilient. I'm loving. I care. So it doesn't have to be overcoming some huge obstacle. And people do have that. But you don't have to do that to write a meaningful college essay. And I'm actually glad you asked that question because a lot of times students believe that overcoming a challenge is the prompt that's going to do it for you. And so they
Mm-hmm.
try really hard to write something that isn't something that's genuine. So the other student who wants to know, so I can write about anything I want, yeah, you don't have to write about the challenge that somebody told you is going to help you to stand out. I once had a student who had diabetes, and her high school counselor was encouraging her to write about diabetes. She had no interest in it. But you know what she did? She had a terrible sense of direction. But she was really resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up writing this story, and she loved it, about like how she got her first job. That she would go, if she had to go to an appointment, she would go early. She would go a couple days before just to make sure she knew how to get there. And then she would leave for that appointment, whatever it was, like an hour earlier than she had to. And then if she was early, she'd just sit in her car and wait or read a book or something. So this was how she got her first job. She got really lost, even though she had been there before. But because she had allowed herself extra time, she made it and she got the job. It was such a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody told her to write about overcoming her challenge. And she did. She wrote about overcoming a challenge. That sense of direction. Look how she deals with it. It showed maturity to the ninth degree. It showed resourcefulness. It showed really smart. It showed that she knew how to get stuff done. She was a problem solver. I can't think of a challenge that's I just thought it was a really good story, and it's a good example here because everybody told her to write about diabetes because colleges wanted to hear about that. And she got into Reed College in Rice, I think.
Mm.
And I'm just saying, like, you don't have to do that. So thank
Mhm.
you for asking that question.
And I think too, it kind of speaks to our culture where we have this mindset that a story is only good if it has a lot of drama in it or it has a lot of trauma even in it. And I encourage students, like the students that I work with on
Yeah,
radically different things, just like, hey, tell me a story about a time that you helped a friend. And I learned so much about the student that's telling me
hmm
the story from something that seems so simple. And it gives me a much bigger window into who that student is. So I think we can kind of push back against that pressure that we feel. I have to
right,
share the biggest, scariest, hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life, or else I'm not going to get into college. Like I think that's a big myth that we can dispel.
right. And news tip, you're all getting into college. So somebody did ask here if I could go over the keywords for the other six common app as personal props. And thank you for not asking that one, Kelly. But they're in the book.
Mhm.
Download the book. We parse all of them. So yeah, it's all there. It would take me an hour to do that. So,
Mhm. Be a whole other webinar. Um, All right, and then a couple of folks just saying how thankful they are for the presentation. It said was wonderful. A couple of folks asking for some clarification on some points, but I'll just remind those folks, or like that they missed a point from earlier. I'll just remind them that this is being recorded. You've registered, and this will be getting sent to you. So you're absolutely welcome to go back and see whatever it is that you had missed. Um, all right, and I think there's only one other question in here that you haven't already touched on, and is asking about like a multimedia component. Would it be
oh,
appropriate to
okay.
add a link to say like a slideshow or a video into their application essay?
So
Or
yeah,
is that something a
good.
little bit different?
It's a good question. So that's where, remember when I did the do's and don'ts? I forgot to add, don't give them anything they didn't ask for. You should ask. You can always email the admissions office, but generally, if they want something, they'll ask for it. So read the instructions, read the instructions. So I'm sure some schools would love it, and some schools might not like it at all, and you don't want to risk giving them something that might make them not like you because you want them to like you. So just follow their direction, their instructions. They're really busy people, and they all will tell you on their website, or some of them are available. They're real people. They're like you, me, Kelly, your parents, your friends' parents. They work in colleges, and most of them are pretty approachable. It's a very nice business, very
Mhm.
nice people. So anyway, thank you so much. This has been delightful as always. And I
Well, thank
wish
you
all
for
of
coming.
you so, oh, thank you, thank you. So, Kelly, I love that Apple Ruth line from the beginning of the slideshow to wrap it up with. And it goes right with, so what's one parting word? Trust yourself. Two words. So, what's yours? What's yours?
Um, I think my parting word would be to, as much as I wouldn't have done this as a teenager, I mean, I think like many of us, we know a lot, right? Teenagers know a lot. I would encourage you to trust the wisdom that you've heard here tonight, right? This is a method that works. Um, Kim's been doing it for almost 2 decades with people now, getting them into schools and whatnot. So don't be afraid to lean out onto these resources and to trust the wisdom of people who've been through the process.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure. And you know, anybody wants to work with us, we still have spots. So, and Apple Ruth rocks. My own daughter worked with them. So there you go. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all for coming tonight. We
Thanks.
hope you have a great evening and good night.